Alright. So, now let us move on to matrices. So, hopefully now you are clear with how to handle scalars and vectors. Now, it is time to turn to a matrix. Remember I said a vector is not treated as a matrix. In R, matrices are different. In some other software, maybe matrix and vector is treated as a matrix with a single column, but that is not the case in R. So, how do we create a matrix in R? The routine for doing that is matrix, or the command that does this for you in R is matrix. And what do you have to supply to this? You have to supply the elements that you want to fill the populated matrix with and specify the number of rows. You do not have to specify the number of columns, it automatically calculates, of course, assuming that the number of columns is an integer, that is the rows times columns is the total number of elements you have supplied. And you may have to tell R how to fill the matrix. So, what you are supplying here is 1 to 20 numbers, and I am specifying the rows. I do not have to specify the columns, but just to show you I am doing that. And let us do that here. So, A equals matrix 1 to 20, and when you press the tab, it brings up the other options. For example, data, of course, we have already supplied that, and that is one thing I want to mention in R. The beauty in R is a lot of these commands here allow you to specify the arguments to that command in any manner, in any order, I mean, that you wish to, so long as you specify the argument name. Otherwise, it expects that if you do not specify the argument name, it assumes that it is following in the order in which it has been given out in the help syntax. But it is a good practice to specify the argument name, so that you are clear as to what is being assigned which value. So, here we say n number of rows is 4 and put a comma here and then press the tab. It should bring you the other ones. Look at how smart RStudio is. It is bringing out the remaining arguments. Of course, because I have not given data, it still assumes you have not supplied data, but I have already done that. So, if you do not want to confuse RStudio, you can go here and specify data, so that now it brings the remaining ones. So, I do not have to specify the number of columns, it automatically calculates it, and then now I have to specify whether this element, that is 1 to 20 vector that I have given, whether it should be assigned row wise, that is, should it fill the matrix first as rows or columns. And you can say here, for example, by row equals false. So, which means that it will fill column wise. So, it will place 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 5, 6, 7, 8 and so on. So, let us see if it actually does that. So, this is what it has done. Look at what has happened here. 1, 2, 3, 4 is the first column, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the second column and so on. And then likewise I am creating here B, which is actually now by row is set to true, which is not the default option, and you can expect what command you would get. So, here B has now been filled row wise, right. So, that is the size. So, you can see A is also 4 by 5 and B is also 4 by 5, but the arrangement of elements are different. You can create matrices, new matrices, or you can create a matrix by binding them along rows. What I mean by this is, let us look at the B matrix here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is along the first row, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is along the second row and so on. I could have created a vector with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another vector with vector 6 with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I could have created this matrix B. Likewise, and the remaining 2 rows, I could create this matrix B by binding those vectors along rows, and that is what R bind does. Or I could, for example, go back to A here, I could have created 1, 2, 3, 4 as one vector and then 5, 6, 7, 8 as another vector, and likewise for the remaining 3 columns, and column bind them to generate A. So, either way I can do, and I can use this R bind even on matrices, so long as the dimensions allow you to do that. So, for here A and B are of sizes 4 by 5, that is 4 rows and 5 columns. I can place them side by side because they have same number of rows. and that is what R bind does. And I could also do a so what sorry, R bind, what it does is it places B below A, right, because it has same number of columns. So, what does it get me? R bind of A comma B. So, you can see it gets me a 10 by 5 matrix, because it is placing B below A, and C bind places B next to A, and you can do that provided A and B have the same number of rows, remember that. And this is quite useful in many operations. Like we discussed before, we would like to know how to access elements of a matrix, and once again the syntax is a square bracket, and you specify the indices. For example, if I want to access a second 2 comma 3 element of A, simply I would say A of 2 comma 3. And another thing that I should have talked about earlier with respect to vectors, for example here, and then we will come back to this matrix thing here. So, remember we had this vector x vec which had 4, 2, 6, 8, 9. There is a nice syntax in R which gets you elements by suppressing a particular one. So, suppose I want to get all the values of x vector except the third element. Okay. The way to do it would be, I will have to specify here 1 to 2, right, and then 4 to 5. Now, that is a lot to type. Instead, I could say do not report the third element, use the negative sign. So, x vec of minus 3, and it will automatically suppress the third element. That is a beautiful syntax in R that you should exploit whenever needed. And you can apply the same thing to matrices as well. For example, our A looks like this, and let us say I do not want the third column. So, you can see now it has given me A by throwing away the third column, and I could do this for a row as well. So, here you can also access a subset of the matrix pretty much in the same way like a vector, and this syntax here gives you the entire row. So, how do you get the entire row? Here you have A 3 comma, do not specify anything. So, it gets you the third row. Likewise, I could ask for the fourth column, right. And remember, as I said earlier, although you are asking for a column, the display is still row wise. So, do not get misled thinking that it is actually reporting a row. The display is always reported row wise, and that is an unfortunate confusion that exists in R. Now, before and likewise, now you could perform element wise operations on matrices. But before I do that, let me actually show you how to create a 3-dimensional array. For example, matrix is a 2D array. The general command to create arrays, whether 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, any dimensional, is a routine array. And what I am doing here is I am actually creating an array which is 1 to 3, and I am saying so let us do run this and see what it does. So, what it has done, of course, I have not supplied enough elements, therefore, it has recycled those elements, but the syntax for array is the same as the matrix, a bit different, but you have to supply the data and you have to specify the number of dimensions as a vector. For example, here let me actually do this again, so that it is more clear. So, I have here 1 to 6 elements being supplied to array, and I am telling array to create a matrix with 2 rows and 3 columns, and that is what it has done, right. And what it has done is it has filled column wise. So, by row is false, which is this is a nice way of even generating a matrix. Remember, an array is a more general version of a matrix. If you are sure you are dealing with 2-dimensional, then it is okay. So, here I could have asked for 3 comma 2 as well, in which case it would generate a 2-dimensional matrix. But of course, the real use of array is in generating 3-dimensional matrices. So, here I am doing that in this C2 variable. Essentially, I am returning a 3-dimensional array, You can see that here I am supplying the data and I am saying telling the array to get me a 2 by 3 by 2. In total I have 12 elements and that many elements are being supplied to array. So, what this command would output is a 3-dimensional array, and if you ask for C2, remember what you have is a 3-dimensional array, which means you have a third dimension, that the first slice is being reported here, comma 1. So, that is the first slice, and then you have the second slice which is sitting behind it. And likewise, if you had more dimensions, but because we have said there are only 2, you can say slices in the third dimension, it has generated likewise. So, an array is a very powerful way of working or generating matrices. Many a times in R, you may be interested in knowing the dimensions. As I said earlier, for the vectors you use length, and for matrices you use dim, matrices and arrays. So, here for example, I can ask what is the dimension of C2, it says 2, 3, 2. On the other hand, if I ask for B2, it says it is a matrix 3 by 2, you see. And there are also occasions where I have to coerce, that means I have to force matrices to become vectors, and I could do that by using as dot vector. For example, I can force B2 or I can convert B2 to a vector, and when I do that, it basically compare this with what B2 had. So, what is it doing? Essentially, it is placing the columns one below the other, and this is called vectorization, that is prevalent in mathematics. And you could apply this to any matrix. You can vectorize any matrix. All it does is it places one column below the other. If you had many columns, it will stack one column below the other and so on. And this can be quite useful. All right. And you can access the elements of a 3-dimensional array in the same way as you do for a matrix. All right. And before we move on to plotting, we will close the session here by showing some element wise and matrix wise mathematical operations. Element wise is fairly straightforward, pretty much like what we saw in vectors. So, I have A here, I have B, just making sure they are of the same sizes, and A plus B would return element wise added up result. And here is where the catch is, when you multiply two matrices in R using the asterisk operator, fortunately or unfortunately, it does an element wise operation. That means, it is going to multiply A of 1 comma 1 with B of 1 comma 1. It is not going to do your regular matrix multiplication. If you want to do a regular matrix multiplication, firstly you have to ensure whether you are doing product wise or element wise, the dimensions have to be compatible. In the element wise, obviously A and B should have the same number of rows and columns, whereas in a matrix wise multiplication, the number of columns of A should be the same as the number of rows of B, and which is that the case here? So, suppose I ask for a matrix multiplication, which is done by using this percentage symbol. So, you encase this asterisk in percentage. When you do that, do you think this is compatible? A has 5 columns and B has 4 rows. Can we do a matrix multiplication? Obviously not, right. On the other hand, I could take the transpose of B, in which case, and that is achieved by the T, in which case now the transpose of B would be a 5 by 4, and then I could multiply. The result is of course a 4 by 4, right. So, that is what one has to keep in mind. And like vectors, when you square an A, just a matrix, it does an element wise square. Remember, if you want the true square like in a matrix square, then you would have to actually do the thing that we just did. Again here this is wrong, right. How would you multiply, how would you get the matrix square? Is matrix square defined? It is not. A transpose A is defined, correct. So, I could do that here and then get a 5 by 5. So, remember, and once again when you perform logarithm, it will get you the logarithm of the individual elements. Now, one of the things that you see here is I have log of b over a. Obviously, mathematically this is not correctly written, but with R what it does is it takes the logarithm of the individual elements and gets a new matrix of the same size as B and does an element wise division, and make sure you do not have 0 in one of the elements of A. So, if I were to do perform this operation at the console, this is what you would get. What it is doing is an element wise division. If you want to do it matrix wise, then you have to multiply with inverse, remember, right, and then again the dimensions have to be compatible. We will talk about inverse shortly. So, I have already spoken about matrix multiplication. Now, we come to the inverse. So, here let us create a matrix A. Now, this matrix A is going to be replaced in the variable. So, be careful. A 4 by 4, it is a square matrix, its inverse is defined, at least in the sense an inverse can exist for a square matrix. In R, the way you would compute inverse is not, as you must have guessed, INV or any other routine. Unfortunately, no such routine exists. Inverse, on the other hand, if you turn to the numerical recipes in the literature, an efficient way of computing the inverse of a matrix is through what is known as a QR factorization, all right. And this solve or QR dot solve essentially is the routine that gets you the inverse of a matrix. There is no INV, clearly telling you that the inverse in any computational software is not computed the way we compute by hand. So, here when I want to compute here, so let us create this matrix quickly, done, and then you have QR dot solve, which gets you the inverse. You can also use solve, but QR dot solve is more efficient than the solve, and once you do that you get the inverse. How do I know this is correct? Multiply. So, I multiply A inverse with A. Remember, I have to use a matrix multiplication and that should get me identity. Now, obviously, I should be seeing zeros theoretically in the off diagonal elements, but up to a numerical precision they are negligible. All right. So, keep this in mind when you are computing inverse of matrices. Now, we have done a lot of things, we have learnt a lot of things. We have learned how to create scalars, perform operations in them, then how to generate vectors in different ways, matrices in different ways, performing operations and them and so on. Now, let us say I have done so much work and I want to save my data, then you can use the save command or save.image, and again you should look up the help on save.image and supply the file name where it will save all the variables in the workspace. You can specifically give list this, or you can say specifically that these particular variables should be stored. That option is also available, just look up the help. This version of this syntax essentially saves all the variables in the workspace into this file called var.rdata. All data files that are saved by R have an extension .rdata. And you remember now when we opened up RStudio, there was a line towards the end, workspace restored from some .rdata. Essentially that is what it was doing. You can specify RStudio whether you want to load at the time of launching some variables from an existing data file, or you can say no. So, that option was on and therefore, it loaded those variables. So, when I do this here save.image, when I run this operation here, what it has done is it has stored all the variables in var.rdata, and now I can see whether I have succeeded or not by first clearing, and this is a bit of a risky operation, but let us clear all the variables in the workspace by going to the panel there and clicking that broom like symbol there, and it asks once again whether you want to clear. I say yes, and now let us load this, right, using the load command. you will use this in your assignments and so on. There you go. So, it has actually loaded all the variables that were saved. So, which means we have really succeeded in saving the variables in the workspace. Very good. So, now we come to the last leg of this tutorial, which is plotting, a very essential part of data analysis. Remember, visualization and visual analysis constitutes an important and a critical step of data analysis, usually at a preliminary stage, but also at later stages. At every point in time, it is better to look at the graphical output and then draw some inferences, which you cannot draw otherwise using some automated routines. And R is particularly well known for its visualization capabilities. Of course, we do not have the time to go through all possible features, but we will give you a feel of and a small tutorial now on how to draw some basic plots that you would be working with. And then as the need arises, you should refer to the R literature, the tutorials on the web and so on to draw specific types of plots like pie graphs, pie diagrams and so on. So, the simplest version of plotting is just plotting a scatter plot on one figure. Then the next one would be to overlay one plot on the other. So, you may have maybe two variables or two signals that you want to plot, vectors that you want to draw, time series that you want to display, and you want to use different symbols for them. That can also be done through what is known as overlaying the plots. And then of course, the more advanced one is where you draw multiple plots, not overlaying on top of each other, but side by side or in whichever arrangement you want. I will show you all these three in that order. So, let us create here now two vectors x and y. I am not going to rename them as x vec here, and I am just creating randomly this vector by drawing 100 numbers from a Gaussian distribution, and every instance of R norm will generate a different set of numbers unless you fix a seed. So, two vectors x and y, let us create them, and I am going to run this. So, I have run both the lines together by pressing this play kind of symbol there on top of this chunk. This is called an R chunk in the markdown language. I have run that chunk, and now I am also going to run this chunk, which consists of plot commands. The first plot command simply plots x. It will draw a scatter plot by default, because it just thinks of x as some collection of data points. The second one also generates a scatter plot, but now on the x axis you would have x and on the y axis you would have y. In the previous plot, on the x axis you would have index of x and on the y axis you would have x. So, first let us run this line here. So, as you can see, this is how the plot looks like. This is perhaps the simplest vanilla plot that you get, where we have not supplied x labels, y labels, we have not specified anything, any of the decoration and annotation inputs have not been given. So, R simply puts the variable name on the y axis and the index as the x label, and as you can see, it has given a scatter plot. This is a random number, so you do not see any particular pattern. And the second version here, when the second line here now plots y versus x. Again, now it says x is on the x axis and y is on the y axis, fine, again without any decoration, without any annotation, and I will shortly show you how to annotate. The R offers some very powerful features of annotating the plots. Now, suppose I do not want a scatter plot, I want a line plot, or I want a bar like plot, or I want a staircase plot. There are so many different ways of plotting. I am not going to go over all of them, but let me show some of the important ones. For example, if I want to plot draw a line plot of x, I can do that by using the type option. So, argument. So, in the type argument to the plot, I specify what kind of plot I want. By default, it is a scatter plot. it draws line plots only if you are supplying a time series, but here x is not a time series object. It is just a, how do I know it is not a time series object? I can ask here if x is a time series object, it says false. So, if it is not a time series object, it is going to draw a scatter plot. So, I am forcing it to draw a line plot, which looks much better than the scatter plot. Once again, I have not specified the x and y labels, or I can get both the line and the scatter plot using the B option, and now you can see it has drawn lines as well as it has given you markers for the points as well. You can also draw a bar like plot. By the way, there are many things you can specify in the plot. For example, in the line plot, I could specify the line width, how thick I want the line, I could specify the color and so on, but we will come to that a bit quickly. So, here in this here I am plotting a bar like plot. So, if I do that, you see there are bars and I can control the widths of these bars. So, at each point it draws a bar, and sometimes this is useful to draw a stem plot and so on. Now, one of the things that is nice with RStudio is the plots that I have drawn previously do not go off anywhere, they do not go out, they are not thrown out, they are available for you to browse back and forth. That is a nice thing about RStudio. So, I can actually go back and forth between plots. If I want to close a particular plot, I can use the button here, and if I want to close all plots, I can once again use the broomstick like thing and say, well, clear all the plots. So, now your slate is clean. Fine. Finally, you can draw a staircase like thing plot where it essentially connects points with a horizontal line. And as I said, it is possible to annotate the plot, and it is a good idea always to annotate the plot, because otherwise people would not know what you are plotting, whether it is a salary over years or it is a rainfall across months, you never know. So, how do I annotate? As I said, plot has many features, you should look up the help on plot. I am just showing you some of the most common ones that you would be needing or requiring. So, I am specifying here, I am asking it to plot a point or a scatter plot, but I could change that to a line plot, and I am giving here x label as x axis. Well, you could give any label that you want, but that is how, that is a syntax. And main here is for the title. So, since we are drawing a line plot, we will change this to from scatter to line, and then you could change the color if you like red, and font dot main, that is one way. There are many ways, there are many things that you can manipulate. Font dot main is telling R to change the title font to bold. You could change font dot lab, the label font as well, to a bold one. So, let us run this, and there you go. So, it has actually generated some garbage looking like plot, and you should ask why this has happened. Why is it that it has not produced the line plot that I imagined? And the reason is x is not in a sorted way. If x was sorted, then it would have been a lot better, right. That is, the plot would have looked a lot better, but you should observe quickly that it has respected all the things that you have, it has sanctioned all the things that you have asked for. If you wanted a bold title, fine, it has you asked for a red color, it did that. So, let us change this to an ordered one, right. So, that x is arranged in a particular manner, and now how do you expect the plot to look like? Now, it looks like a nice plot, right. Otherwise, what it was doing is it was just connecting back and forth, because x did not have a sorted version of the elements. So, hopefully, you understood that point there. All right, and now as I said, this is the last part where I show you how to overlay and also split the screen. So, these are considered fairly advanced plotting features, the next step, but it is good to know, because many a times you may want to overlay one series on top of the other. For example, if there is a time series and you fit a trend, you want to actually plot the series and the trend that you have fit. And the first thing that in the order of discussion is overlays. where I would, in this example, I am overlaying the scatter and line plot. So, what am I doing here? I am generating a sine wave, all right, and then I am plotting, I am generating, I am plotting the sine wave, I am just drawing a scatter plot, and I am also going to draw the lines. Of course, I could do this by a single stroke, where I say plot with type O. So, it will actually overlay one on top of the other, but I am just showing you, if you were to do this manually, how would you do this, and then I will show you a slightly more advanced example. So, let us run this chunk here and see what it produces. So, there you go. I have plotted, I have drawn a scatter plot of the sine wave, and I have also drawn a line plot, and I can control the marker type, the marker color, the background, the face color, and the thickness of the line. I can do many things. For example, here I could say, please get me a line width of 2. And if I do that and rerun this, you can see that the line thickness has now changed, right. I could change the color and so on. But what you should observe very importantly is, I have used the first run, I have used the plot command, and then I have used the lines command. You cannot reverse this sequence. The first command that has to go out has to be a plot command, and then you can have lines and points for overlaying. On the other hand, if I were to replace this lines with a plot, unfortunately what would happen is, it would not draw on the same plot, it will generate a fresh plot, or you can say essentially it will overwrite the existing. So, let us do that here. So, look at what has happened here. It has actually generated again a scatter plot, because the second one is also scatter. But suppose I run this kind of a syntax and do this, you see what has happened is, it has overwritten the scatter plot that the previous one has generated, and that is what a plot usually does. So, therefore, you have to use the plot here, you have to use the lines, and by default draw the lines plot, and lines expects that there is already a plot device that is open, a plot window that is open. Fine. Now, the next thing, next slightly more advanced example is, where I have a sine wave, I have a sine and a line, they rhyme well, and it is the same sine wave, but now I have a line as well, a straight line, and I want to draw both on the same plot. But before I do that, remember we are going to issue a plot command and then a lines command. What lines does is, it keeps the plot window open and it overlays the new plot on top of the existing one. But in doing so, unfortunately, it does not adjust the y axis for the new series that it is drawing. I mean, y axis limits, what I mean by y axis. Suppose the new series has a larger y axis limit or a different y axis limit, then unfortunately the basic plot or lines do not adjust themselves. So, one has to manually do that, and this is what I am doing in this example here, and I am specifying the y limit here. So, when I issue this command here, what it does is, it plots a sine wave, this particular line, with a different kind of y limits that whatever the user has specified. Why am I doing this? So that in the next line, when I am drawing the line, it actually shows the full line and it is not cut off. And let us run this and see what it does. So, you can see the actual sine wave, the y limit for sine wave is different from the y limit for the line. If I had not supplied the y limit in the plot command, then the line would have been cut off. That is one thing to observe. The second thing is, I have drawn a legend here, and the syntax for the legend is given here. Please go through the syntax. The command is legend, and you can specify the location. You can also, here I have specified the xy coordinates. On the other hand, you could specify as a string top left, bottom right, and so on. And you have to supply the string legend. You can also supply the colors and what kind of lines should be drawn, in the legend, and what should be the line width, and how wide should the box be, and so on. So, there are so many things you can play around with. Look at this carefully and you will understand. And I have also changed the line spacing here to 1.3 in the legend, and I can give a title to the legend as well. So, many things you can do. Let us now close this finally with drawing multiple figures in the same screen, and there are 3 ways of doing that in R, using the pair command, the layout, and split dot screen. So, what we are going to do is we are going to take a time series called SO2. This time series SO2 contains the sulfur dioxide levels in Los Angeles over a certain period 1970 to 1979. This data set, R is beautiful, it has a lot of data sets. With every package you will have some data sets. This data set comes from a package or a library called ASTSA, ASTSA, Applied Time Series Analysis, and this is available. How do you install this package? You can go to the packages here and click on install and specify ASTSA. I do not have an internet connection here, but if I have a working internet connection, then RStudio would automatically bring the matching packages, and you can make sure this install dependencies is checked on, and RStudio will install all those packages for you. I have already done that, and the ASTSA is already installed for me. Installation is different from loading. Installation simply means it has been installed on your computer in a particular folder, but you want to bring that library alive and active, or what is known as attach that library. You can you do that by using the library command, so or require command. So, I have done that here. So, I am going to run this. So, now ASTSA has been loaded into my R, it is alive and kicking, and now what I am going to do is I am going to plot the sulfur dioxide series, and I am going to draw what is known as a box plot. Most of you may know what is a box plot. It shows you the median, the quartile, and quartiles, and it shows you the extreme points and so on. And then I am also going to draw a histogram of the series. So, these are the 3 plots that I want to draw. In the simplest way, I would draw one below the other, the series, and then followed by the box plot, followed by the histogram. And the way to do that is to use the pair command with MF row options. What is this MF row does? It basically divides your screen into that many plots as you specify. So, here I am asking pair to divide the screen into 3 rows and a single column, and then I am specifying other options, how much spacing should be given around each plot in terms of number of lines, not inches. So, 3, 3, 3, 3. What this means is leave around each subplot left, to the left of that 3 lines, to the right of it 3 lines, top and bottom 3 lines. So, that much space is given, and I can also specify the outer margins again using the pair command by specifying OMA option, outer margins. This is for the entire big plot. And now I issue the plot command. What it does is it goes in sequence. The first plot command runs on the first subplot, the second plot command will run on the second subplot, and the third one runs on the third subplot. So, you can see that there is a plot that will be displayed in the first one, then the box plot on the second, and the histogram on the third in that sequence. So, let us run this, and you see there is a beautiful plot here. If you want to bring out the plot and zoom in, you can use a zoom option there in RStudio. So, you can see the series is on the top, box plot is in the center, and then the histogram at the bottom. Now, maybe I want a more fancy arrangement. I want the series on the top, but I want the box plot and the histogram side by side, right, and I can do that using either layout or split dot screen, and that is the last thing that I want to show you. The layout is a more advanced way of plotting this thing with the fancy arrangement that we just spoke of. So, how do I do that? I use the layout command, and what do I supply to the layout command? The arrangement, right. What is the arrangement here? Saying on the top I want the series. So, imagine the screen to be divided as 1 as 1 stretching over the entire width, and 2 and 3, the bottom one being split into 2 and 3. So, that is how it would look like. So, here if you, this is your device window, imagine that this is being divided now 1, 2 and 3, and that is what I am doing. But what I am specifying is here I am essentially saying this should, this is also both these belong to the first plot, and that is what I mean by here layout of M. What is M? Okay, so essentially I am supplying that kind of a matrix to layout, and layout dot show will give you that. It will, once you have passed this matrix to layout, it will divide the screen as I have shown on the board, and then layout dot show will confirm that you have indeed done it that way. And once again I am specifying the spaces around the plots and issuing the same set of commands. When you run this, you will see this kind of a plot. So, that is how you use layout. And finally, of course, there are many different options to layout you can play around with. And finally, what you can do is you can achieve the same thing with split dot screen, where you are splitting the screen. So, the way I am doing it is I am splitting the screen initially as 1 and 2, right. I am splitting it this way. Then I further split the second screen. Of course, R numbers it as 3 and 4, because it says the one behind this is 2, right. And you can now, the nice thing about split dot screen is you can specify in which screen which plot has to go, and that is done by the screen routine. So, the first thing to do is split the screen, and then you have screen 1, you want the series with the spacings around it, and in screen 2 what you are doing is you are splitting it further into 2, and again split dot screen is a routine that does for you, and then you specify which plot has to go into the left one, which is a box plot, and in screen 4 you want the histogram to go. That is all, and you get a nice plot which exactly looks like this. So, you can achieve the same thing, but there are many more features that you can play around with in split dot screen or layout. As I told you, they are in the order of sophistication. So, that brings us to the conclusion of this long tutorial, but hopefully has covered various aspects. We have shown you how to deal with scalars, vectors, matrices, and certain subtle points and beauties of R, and of course, importantly shown you how to deal with plots, how to draw basic plots, some advanced features, how to annotate them and so on. So, hopefully, you have learned quite a bit. The best way to learn is to practice. We will post all these commands and the output of this on the course web page. Work them out. If you have any issues, write to us and we will be glad to help. Thank you.